what do you want? How are you getting in your way? And how do we get you out of your way? Because once you ask those 3 last questions, it starts to get people to analyze, wait a minute, am I comfortable? Because if what I want is actually achievable, but I'm using excuses that I don't have time, or I'm just, I got so many things going on, or life is happening. Okay, those are the excuses that you're enabling in order to put up yourself barriers to stop you from achieving your goals.
What would you say is the difference between comfort and complacency?
Ooh, to me, complacency is you're not filling your cup. You're letting your cup drain as quick or as slow as you're allowing it to.
And comfort would be? Comfort
would be that you're holding on to your cup and you're not pouring it. You're not filling it. You're just out there.
Cool.
Right. And that's the way I would define comfort versus complacency. Because complacency is you're out there and you're like, oh, you're acting busy. You're acting like you're doing everything, but you're not refilling your cup because you're out there constantly pouring your cup into everybody else. But comfort is, this is my cup. It's full. It's finally full. And now I'm going to protect it. I'm not going to pour it. I'm not going to accept anything new. And I'm just going to live life the way it is.
I want to ask you, what are you uncomfortable with right now?
The one thing that I'm uncomfortable with, I guess you can say, is I am Brandon Johnson.
I'm Tyler Reckla, and this is the Synergy Code Podcast.
So this episode, what I wanted to talk about was the comfort zone. And in the comfort zone, when you think of comfort, I think of this quote from Marcus Aurelius from The Gladiator, right? That's where I got the idea from, to like, oh, the Romans had a great idea of the way that they built.
That was Russell Crowe, right?
Russell Crowe's the better one than the number 2, although I haven't seen the number 2. But we're getting off topic. So not yet, right?
Okay, gotcha.
All right, so comfort. Comfort is the worst addiction a man can have. The greatest conspiracy theory around comfort is that comfort is your greatest enemy, but could be your friend at the same time. And the reason why, that sounds kind of contradictory, but the reason why is because when we get comfortable, we don't grow. But when we grow for so long, we take our breaks in our comfort zone in order to kind of recap, reanalyze before we go forward.
So
right?
Almost like a flow state is what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have your ebbs and flows. So you go up, that is the uncomfortableness. That's when the business is growing. That's when you're being creative. You're in that zone where you have to come up with new solutions. And then you have the lulls where like, okay, we can be a little bit comfortable for a while. We can enjoy the fruits of our labor more or less, right? And then it goes back up. All right, oh, okay, now we have to get uncomfortable again to make the business grow again. Is that kind of what we're thinking there?
Absolutely. And that's why I was like, it's your greatest enemy, but it's also your greatest friend. Because if you're always in your uncomfortable zone, right? And you're always growing, you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening right now when you look at local businesses and employees, and people are just trying to continue that thrive in mentality, thrive in 25 type idea. And comfort is not a bad thing unless you spend a lot of time in it, right? And so the one question I really wanted to start off with was, how long do you think is the perfect amount of time to stay in the comfort zone?
That's fine. I was just thinking the same thing. I was going to ask you the exact question. I wonder, I'll answer it, and I kind of want your opinion on it. I would think it depends on the business and on the personality, right? So like for me, for example, I think it just depends on how long that uncomfortable stage lasts, right? How productive it is. Like, does that uncomfortable stage, if I get to that uncomfortable stage and I have a goal in mind and I want to go from A to Z in this particular stage, right? Do I get there? Right? How long does it take me to get there? Do I want, am I going to get burnout before I get there? I would assume it matters on the person and on the industry specific.
Yes, it does. And it matters more on the person, because the question that you need to ask yourself if you've been sitting in the comfort zone for too long, is it protecting you or is it imprisoning you? Because when you get way too comfortable, then taking that risk becomes a new fear.
Right.
And another thing to add to the comfort zone question and the comfort zone idea is, what if we removed fear from change? And instead of being scared of change, instead of being scared of taking that step out of our comfort zone, why not embrace it and be like, you know what? What if I succeed by taking that rogue step out of my comfort zone and really put myself out there to be exposed.
You don't think fear is a good thing to have for stepping out of that?
How much are you allowing fear to dictate your decisions?
So for me personally, I think there is a healthy amount of fear, nervousness when you make these large decisions, when you step out of your comfort zone. I think if you don't have fear, if you don't have that nervous feeling, you're probably not doing enough. You're not stepping far enough. You're 1 foot out of your comfort zone.
So is that fear you being nervous, or is that fear of the uncertainty, or is that fear of failure?
I think all of the above, right?
So yes, but I like to push people to the aspect of get to the point of fear to where you are a little uncomfortable, you are a little uneasy. And what I love to ask people is, how are you feeling? In the aspect of in their business, in your leadership role, or in your job hunting, how are you feeling? And if they come to me and they're like, I'm good, I'm like, you're in the wrong spot. You're in the way wrong spot. How long you been feeling good for?
I was going to ask you, so what if they say they're feeling good? What if they say, you asked me that question, and I say, Brandon, I'm good. Well, how long have you been good? I've been good for like a week. Like, I'm to that point where I'm just now settling down.
Yeah,
is that okay? Are we okay at that point?
Well, I would ask you, well, what's the next step?
Okay.
What are you working on? Where are you going to innovate, and where are you going to adapt to be better tomorrow than you were today? Right. And it's one of those point blank questions that make a lot of people uneasy, because it's asking them to think tomorrow instead of today. Because a lot of people want to focus on today when they're in that comfort zone of, I'm good. I got money flowing in. I got a good house, good wife. I got a good kids. Everything's good. But the problem is once we get comfortable, we get complacent.
Yeah.
And once we get complacent, then we get lazy. And then we stop preparing for those opportunities for them when they come. And like we said on a couple episodes ago, if that opportunity comes for you and you ain't ready, that opportunity is not waiting.
Sure. I mean, I would assume sometimes though it's okay to be comfortable, right? Stop and smell the roses, because you can't be uncomfortable your whole life, because again, you hit that burnout point. You got to have some of that reward to what you're doing. Stop and smell the roses, right? I think maybe that's where goal setting comes in play too. Is even though when you get to that comfort stage where you've stepped away from being uncomfortable, you were uncomfortable for a period of time. You did the thing you set out to do for that goal, that grand goal. You accomplished that goal. Now is the time to all right, let's take a load off, stop, smell the roses. Let's enjoy the fruits of our labor and actually enjoy what I just created. And then maybe we're creating another goal at that point.
So the whole point of this idea and this theme is to explore the paradoxes of the comfort zone, right? Because the comfort zone definition for you is completely different than me, right? And in my position and in my industry, what I'm noticing is exactly what you just went down with. Okay, what's your goals? What's that? That's the go-to response. But my thing is, you shouldn't have to wonder at that time when you're in your comfort zone, at that moment, what are you going to do next? You should have already planned for, all right, I'm going to ebb and I'm going to flow. This is my legacy. This is my horizon, my milestone, or my dream goal. And in that aspect, I'm looking way down the road so I can enjoy the journey.
So what is
instead of the destination?
What is way down the road? What is that?
So that would be what I challenge people is your legacy.
Okay.
What do you want people to write about you in 100 years? What do you want your family to read about you in 100 years from now? And what stamp and improvement that you did for your legacy, for your name 100 years from now? And a lot of people are like, that's too far. Why do I need to think of 100 years?
Is that something you think someone should always be thinking about then?
Not always.
Okay.
Not always. Because
So when's the appropriate time for that?
To what? To think of?
Yeah, when's the appropriate time to think about legacy?
At least once every 5 to 10 years, because your life is going to change, right? And so when I throw that question out to people, I like to ask them, hey, your legacy is important. And the reason why is, and I tie it back to our last episode talking about Michael Phelps. When you have a response to when the fanfare dies and the spotlights turn off, you know what's next. You're not going to fall into those 3 pillars of drugs, alcohol, depression, and contemplating suicide, because you already know what your next steps are going to be. And that is what a legacy allows you to do, right?
So let me throw that back on you then, because I want to ask you, what is the appropriate time frame for someone, in your opinion, to be uncomfortable, to remain uncomfortable before they can get to that comfort stage? Well, is there, when you're working with people, is there a period of time well, we've been challenging it. We've been growing for a year. Let's take a break, or like, what's that look like?
So what it looks like is it varies based on the person, right? Depends on what are they trying to achieve. Because it's going to look a lot different from someone who wants a promotion versus someone who's trying to scale their business. It's going to look a lot different from someone who's just, they're okay getting by to get by and they kind of want to dabble their toe in putting themselves out there versus someone who's like, no, I want to be aggressive and I really want to put myself out there. How do I expose, right? How do I expose my brand? How do I expose my skills, my capability to people that will pay top dollar for it? And so that's why it's really like, there's not a one size fits all. And I think that's why it's so awesome and beautiful about the whole idea of a legacy in the comfort zone is you're okay being comfortable for a period of time that fits for you. But when you start being complacent, that's when you got to be like, okay, I need to take a step back. I need to reflect, rewire. How am I moving forward?
And maybe it's something too, or maybe, I wouldn't even say I ever get complacent. I don't think that exists for me. I don't think that's in my vocabulary, really, right? It's more so like sometimes I get comfortable. Sometimes I can slow down and enjoy what's going on without having to build something grand and change things right away. But you still have that idea of like I'm slowly moving towards this. I'm not complacent, but maybe I'm comfortable right now.
Are you constantly, would you say that you're constantly moving towards an objective?
I would say so.
So
yeah.
What is your definition of being comfortable?
I think it would matter on how drastic of a change you're trying to make right now, right? Like right now, we're getting into a new building. I'm opening a brand new clinic, right? That is a very, very drastic change.
Uncomfortable.
I'm very uncomfortable, right? 6 months ago, I guess I was doing the same thing. I don't know if I've been comfortable, to be honest.
Yeah.
Hopefully in 6 months from now,
yeah,
the clinic's established. I've got a couple people that are other therapists that are full-time working for me and everything. And then I can be a little bit more comfortable and slow down and really hyper focus on some things where right now it's more spread out, right? I think that would probably be more of the definition of comfort for me is where, cool, I'm never going to be complacent. I wouldn't say I would, but I'll always have these goals, these things I want to achieve. But right now it's kind of the shotgun approach where I'm like, I have to focus on, my focus is divided. It has to be divided. I don't have a choice but to be divided right now. Hopefully it gets to the point where I can hyper focus on one thing. I can hyper focus on another, right?
But as you're hyper focusing on that, you're putting yourself out there. Therefore, you're doing the definition of being uncomfortable because you don't know what the second and third order effect is that going to be.
Sure. Yeah.
So comfort to me, when I'm analyzing a client or when I'm analyzing a potential lead or whatever, I find out that comfortability is, what have you been doing the last month? What have you been doing the last 6 months? And if the answer is, I go to work, I'm working on my business, in my business, I'm like, okay, what improvements are you doing? How do you see yourself next quarter? What goals did you set for this quarter, right? So I talk about legacy being 100 years from now. That is your elephant. You're not going to eat an elephant in one spot. You're going to have to take those little bites. And those little bites are when we resort back to the 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals. But even smaller bites are, what am I doing this quarter? What am I doing this month? What am I doing this week? Right. And so I've always asked people 5 questions. How are you feeling? What are you thinking? What do you want? How are you getting in your way? And how do we get you out of your way? Because once you ask those 3 last questions, it starts to get people to analyze, wait a minute, am I comfortable? Because if what I want is actually achievable, but I'm using excuses that I don't have time, or I'm just, I got so many things going on, or life is happening. Okay, those are the excuses that you're enabling in order to put up yourself barriers to stop you from achieving your goals.
What would you say is the difference between comfort and complacency?
Ooh, complacency is that you are, to me, that you're not researching, you're not watching podcasts, you're not educating yourself, you're not filling your cup. To me, complacency is you're not filling your cup, you're letting your cup drain as quick or as slow as you're allowing it to.
And comfort would be?
Comfort would be that you're holding on to your cup and you're not pouring it, you're not filling it, you're just out there.
Cool.
Right? And that's the way I would define comfort versus complacency, because complacency is you're out there and you're like, oh, you're acting busy, you're acting like you're doing everything, but you're not refilling your cup because you're out there constantly pouring your cup into everybody else. But comfort is, this is my cup, it's full, it's finally full. And now I'm going to protect it. I'm not going to pour it. I'm not going to accept anything new. And I'm just going to live life the way it is.
And this might be something you want to touch on at the end of the episode too, but at what point would you say uncomfortability or non-complacency is not okay too, or maybe you're getting close to burnout? Like, well, how do you avoid that if you're always trying to be uncomfortable?
Put yourself out there. Find your people, right? If you're in a business or if you're in a leadership role, who do you lean on? Who do you reach out to if you're having a rough week, a rough day, right? Who do you bounce ideas off? The best question I ever got asked was, who's your 5 champions? Who's the 5 people that you surround yourself with that you want to become, that one, have influence around the industry of which you are dibble-dabbling in, or the leadership roles that you want to join in? Yeah. that you want to get into. And what are they saying when you're not in the room? Right? That's the difference.
That's what you think keeps you from burnout.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because an honest mentor, an honest business coach, an honest friend, an honest peer, they're going to notice when you're starting to lack, when you're starting to slack, when you're starting to let off on the gas. And the first question that a good mentor, a good peer, a good friend, or definitely a good business coach would ask was, hey, I'm noticing you're kind of leaning off the gas a little bit. What's up? What are you worried about? What's the next moves that we need to do?
Cool.
So
that being said, I'm going to kind of shift topic real quick. It's not something we talked about, but right now is kind of men's health, mental awareness month.
Mm-hmm.
Health. Same thing. Like, make sure you're checking on your friends.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure that's big with you.
Yeah.
Is if you haven't heard from a friend, or you have a friend, even if they seem like they're happy, check on them. Just make sure they're doing okay.
Yeah. Especially men are the underserved community when it comes to the mental health aspect. And this is why I pour so much into like one of the companies that I coach and consult for in Salt Lake City, being Jack's Playground. It's a nonprofit and they focus on men's mental health, getting men together to be able to talk about what is going on. So I'm so glad you brought that up.
There is, I can't remember, it's somewhere 6-7 million men are either diagnosed or undiagnosed with depression or anxiety in America. That's a lot. That's a lot. I think it's 100 and it's like 118 or 120 or 130, somewhere in that range. Yeah. Men kill themselves every single day. Yeah. Men account for, I don't even know if you know this, men account for 80% or more of all suicides. Yep. Yeah, it's very, very important.
And it's a real number. And it's a number that needs to be shared. And it's a number that doesn't.
Don't be afraid of it.
It needs to be, we need to stop not talking about it.
Well,
being scared.
we kind of talked about it a little bit. I don't know if you saw this, but there was a reel going around on social media, and it was because it was take a moment of silence for men's mental health. And it was this lady on there kind of mocking it and acting like she's making a bunch of noise during the moment of silence. And she got absolutely tore up for it, right? And as she should have. But I think that's a good point. Is like a lot of people, there are toxic men, right? That happens. A lot of women have been scorned by men and vice versa, right? But I don't care if it's a man, woman, or otherwise. I don't think it's ever okay to poke fun at someone's mental health.
No.
In any circumstance.
Absolutely not. And I'll be vulnerable here a little bit. It took me 19 and a half years to go to mental health. 19 and a half years to talk about deployments, 19 and a half years to talk about suicides that I responded to, 19 and a half years to talk about childhood trauma. And the whole reason why was threefold. 1, I was afraid of the stigma. 2, I was afraid of losing my gun as a law enforcement officer in the Air Force. And 3, I thought it was going to devalue myself as a man by talking about my feelings. But I realize that being able to be open is not a vulnerability; it's a strength.
Absolutely.
And being able to be open with another guy or a group of guys, you'll be shocked with how much people can relate and resonate with you. Because in society, we get ragged on all the time that the men needs to be the provider. That
men are never good enough in society's eyes for most of the time. Yep. Back to the masculinity part. Women think, or not women, sorry, just some people in general think a toxic man is like a macho man, which is absolutely incorrect. Yep. A toxic man is a very insecure man, right? They usually have some sort of mental health issue or insecurity that they're portraying onto other people. Yeah. That's a toxic man. A secure, stable, mature, masculine man is not a toxic man at all.
No,
they're a provider. They're a caregiver. They're a caretaker. That's what makes a man. Well,
it brings me to, and I'm thinking of like that video that was going around on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever. It was one of the street interviews, and it was a guy asking a girl, "Hey, are you single?" And she's like, "Well, and he goes, "Well, are you single or are you not?" And she's like, "Well, what's the question?" And then like a guy comes into the scene. And
I
then
know
the guy,
exactly what you're talking about.
And then the guy,
it was her boyfriend.
Yeah, and he puts his arm around her, and he's like, and he knows that she's being interviewed, and he's like, "Oh, well, what did you say?" And she's like, "Oh, stop!" And she pushed him off, and he's like, "You said you were single, didn't you?" And then he looked at the guy, and I felt this. I was like, "Holy crap!" He goes, "You helped me more than I thought you needed to, because this just showed me, because we've been going together for 6 months. I've been her man, and then all of a sudden, when she's in front of another guy who has a potential or opportunity, she's like, "Oh, I'm, and I might be single and stuff." And then he was like, "Holy crap, that, and that hits in the feels, even if you're in a happy marriage, even if, because you feel for other guys, because you're like, holy crap, is that going to make a villain? Is that going to turn him into one of those guys that are going to hit the gym and be ripped?" And then
men are expendable.
Yeah.
Men are very much, I mean, and that's kind of our nature. Mm-hmm. Like, men are expendable, right? You don't need a lot of men to continue the human race. Yeah. So throughout history, like, men have been expendable.
Go to wars.
Exactly.
All that stuff,
right.
Yeah.
That's why, I always say that's why men do all the stupid shit. Yep. Is because we're more risky typically, right? And it's because we have that wired, we're expendable. Yeah. If we die, cool, the human race still continues. Yep. If the women die, the human race kind of stops.
Well, and and it goes into like that. I know you don't like him, but the Oliver Anthony song, "Scornful Woman."
I've actually listened to it like 3 times.
That song hits the feels. Yeah. But that song hits the feels for a lot of guys, even if they're happily married, because there's something in the back of the head that could happen. Yeah. Right? Because think about it. He speaks so clearly on a lot of our fears as guys that what he even says, he said, the court said 50-50 and the math ain't right to a scornful woman. And the story is that he made it big off of Richmond, north of Richmond, and he came from nothing in the hills of West Virginia. And he put himself out there. He took a risk. He got out of his comfort zone. So he was uncomfortable putting himself out there because he didn't know what the response was going to be. And he ended up making millions.
Well, and that was because he went on Joe Rogan, right? Yeah. Because Joe Rogan was like, "Hey, don't take the record deal, whatever, keep staying independent."
And he's like, "Joe, they're offering me $7 million." And Joe's like, "You're an idiot. Don't do it because you're going to make more." And when that happened, his wife was like, "Cool, we're rich. I never liked you," but they've been married for like years. And he's like, "Nope, I want a divorce." She was like, "No, I want a divorce." And so in that song, he's like, "You can take the money, you can take the fame. I just want this pain to go away." And I'm like, oh God, talk about like, dude.
I think a lot of people don't understand. I think a lot of people don't understand that men are pretty simple creatures. Yep. I was actually talking to our buddy Jeff today about it, and how, like, man, when I was single, like, I didn't need shit. Yeah. I could have slept in a bunk on someone's house forever or whatever. Same thing. Like, give me a blanket and a cardboard box, and I'll make it work.
Go into an apartment of a bachelor, and all they have is a TV stand, an Xbox, and a beanbag chair.
Dude, my place,
living there like a king.
When I was living by myself in Ontario, I had a house I was renting by myself. It was like $350 a month to rent a whole house. It was awesome. But my living room was a couch that I got for free from somebody, a coffee table I got for free from somebody, my TV, my Xbox, and that's it. My kitchen, I had like 3 forks and a spoon, right? There was this, I got drunk one night and I just throw stuff together, and there was this concoction sitting in this pot that I made, and it was like cream of mushroom soup, green beans, corn, and like maybe a piece of chicken or something like that. It was disgusting.
Gross.
And it just sat there for like a month.
That's disgusting. Oh God, that's disgusting. But you're right. We are simplest creatures, and to tie it back into giving a nod to Men's Mental Health Month, especially in the month of June, it's an important factor. And yes, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
that if you have any friends, that just reach out to them and ask them if they're okay.
Reach out to us.
Yes, reach out to us by all means. We'll always. I'm a chatty Cathy, so even if I don't know you, I'll get to know you.
Yeah.
So it is June. One, I can't believe how fast time is going. This is our 5th episode that we'll be releasing. But is it me, or does it just seem like the summer heat just makes people crazy?
Oh man, I have no idea. I don't know if it's the summer heat or the California heat.
It must be. Because those LA riots are out of hand.
Dude,
and then this Saturday, the 14th, we got the No Kings riots going on nationwide. But have you heard from, did you see the thing from Florida? So DeSantis did an executive order or a law or something and was like, if they're blocking, run them over. You will not be held
So I don't know why that did. So speaking like by law, do you know what kidnapping is?
Mm-mm.
Kidnapping is when you feel like you can't leave.
Oh, yeah.
By force, right? If you are in your car and they're blocking the road and you can't back up or go, that is technically kidnapping. I don't understand why that doesn't happen more. I'm very surprised it doesn't happen more because that's technically kidnapping.
Think about it though. People are afraid to be that viral video,
and they're going to be prosecuted for it, and which is wrong in my opinion. But that is kidnapping. Like by all means, protest, right? That's your right, but don't hold people from. You don't know if that person needs to go to the hospital or their mom's dying or their whatever. They have some sort of emergency.
Well, they got to go to work to support their family because their work is not going to accept the excuse. Hey, I'm caught on the I-15 or I-84 because some idiot's on the freeway.
Did you see some of the riot stuff?
Yeah, a peaceful protest. You mean?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Burning cars. I saw one. Oh, did you see that Senator Padilla?
Yes.
He charged. He was like,
what was that for? Do you know what that was for?
So he went in there to ask a question, but he didn't identify himself. He was speaking Spanish and he was yelling and he did not have a security pin.
That's why. Okay.
He didn't have a security pin at the time. And since they didn't know who he was, you're damn right. The FBI and Secret Service is going to tackle him and take him out. But if you listen to Kristi Noem, she was like, once I realized who he was, I sat down with him for 10 to 15 minutes. But then it's kind of like what Gavin Newsom said, I think Senator Padilla said was, well, yeah, they talked, but it really was nothing. And that's exactly what Gavin Newsom was like. Well, President Trump never called me. We never talked. He never talked about the riots. He never talked about anything. And he was like, I got the transcript. I would release it, but I don't want to put that out there. I'm like, first of all, if it's anything to bring discredit to Trump, you will not hesitate.
Would. Absolutely.
And then what was funny was Trump responded with, well, this is the official call log from the president's phone. This is when I called him. I called him twice. First time he didn't answer. The second time we talked for 16 minutes. And here's what I said. And so it just made him look like a complete idiot, which is good because Gavin Newsom is an idiot, especially the way he's running California.
He's a pawn.
I don't understand how California continues to vote the way they vote and be the way that they are with what they are witnessing. And if you care about the environment, you care about people, cool. But burning Teslas, burning cars, disrupting and disrespecting and spitting and throwing and putting people's lives in danger because they're doing their job, ICE and federal agents, they're just there to uphold.
So what do you think about the whole ICE thing?
Absolutely. That's what I voted for. 100%. I'll be honest. Absolutely. And I feel I treated the way as this is our country. This is our house. We lock the doors at night. Why? It's not because we don't like who's out there. We like who's in here.
Right.
And if you want to be in here, you got to assimilate, right? American values mean something, but they don't mean something if anyone and everyone can come in and wave their foreign flag, burn the American flag, and
that's my biggest issue with is they're causing they're breaking the law in multiple ways, right? And while doing so, waving a foreign flag. Like that is by definition like an invasion, basically. That's an alien invasion, right? That's what's going on. I'm all for deporting those that break the law, right? Those that are not necessarily here illegally. That's been going on forever. It's a weird situation, I think, because you have some, so even like in the farms around here, like you have illegals that have been on the farms for 20, 30 years. Do I think they should be deported? Absolutely not. Right.
Why haven't they applied for citizenship? That's my question.
And that's the thing too. Should they? Yes, absolutely.
If you are here illegally, you are therefore, you broke the law.
Right.
Therefore, you are a criminal. Are you a serious criminal? Absolutely not. but you're still a criminal.
Correct.
If you've been here for 15 years, you've had 15 years to apply for citizenship. When I was in Germany, we were warned if we overstayed our government issued passport and visa, we would be jailed and fined a lot of money.
Every other modern country, well, they used to. I mean,
even if you go to Mexico, if you're in Mexico and overstay your visa, you get thrown in jail.
I mean, most of Europe's the same way. But have you seen what's been going on in Ireland?
Oh yeah,
Ireland is. You think the United States is bad? Ireland is riding big time. Even the IRA is backing up like the feds. We're like, this is not a political problem. This is a nationality problem.
People are, I think, pushing back on the global agenda.
It's scary.
It is very scary because it's just like one thing after another keeps happening and teasing of like, are we in a global shift? Are we in a global shift of how the world's going to look like in 5 years?
I think
because
so.
It completely changed from 2020 when COVID started to now.
Do you think COVID had anything to do with this?
I think so.
I think so too.
I think
I think people forgot how to interact with other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm noticing that in business. People don't know how to shake hands, look at people in the faces, and don't know how to have a hand-to-hand like conversation.
I think we lost that in the 2 years or whatever it was, and I think people just haven't reassimilated back to what it was.
Well,
I mean, look at even the Doge stuff, right? The Doge stuff. If we could just get back to pre-COVID, 2019, like cut the spending to pre-COVID, we'd save trillions of dollars a year.
Yeah.
That's 5 years or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Like just get back to that. It doesn't have to cut it all, like burn it all to the ground. It just has to get back to some sort of normality. This is not normal anymore.
What happens if you were to tell someone who remote works, hey, I think it's time for you to go back to work? How do they react?
They throw a fit.
Right?
Yeah.
Man, I got to put pants on? What the heck?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, this is where I'm like, I'm catch 22. I'm like, I think people should go back to work because I think it's if taxpayer money is paying for rent on a building, rent or services for a building for people to be there, then yes, we need to occupy it. If we are not occupying, then either A, get rid of the building, sell it or whatever, or if you're going to want people to come back to work, you're going to have to pay them more.
I also think too, there's a different dynamic when you're in person, right? It's different than
helps with the culture.
It helps with the culture. I was going to say it builds the culture. You don't have a culture if you're all remote. It just doesn't happen. You don't have that camaraderie between.
It's something different when you're looking at someone face to face. You see they're nonverbal.
Well, just like I talked about before, right? It's that oxytocin versus dopamine.
Yep.
It's dopamine digitally and virtually, and it's oxytocin in person. You don't get that oxytocin. You don't build those relationships. You don't build the trust. You don't build the rapport. Therefore, you don't build the company or whatever it is as well as you would in person.
Well, it goes back to a couple episodes when you were talking about our society is built around cars. And obesity is built. You can see the growth with obesity with cars because we became more lazy. But the thing about working in the office versus working at home is how much time do you spend in your car going to work that you're not getting paid? Versus I can wake up at 6, log on, do my 8 hours from 6 to 2.
But how many people are actually working during those 8 hours?
That's true.
You know what I mean?
No, that's
fair. That's the quality versus the quantity.
Yeah, that's
fair.
They're
putting the quantity, but it's the quality.
That's fair. And that goes into the other question of, well, are those employees, how productive are they? Are they meeting your matrix? Because if they're meeting your matrix, then you have, as a leader, you have nothing to complain about.
Right.
Then I follow up with, well, what's your standards and expectations? Because if you're not setting your standards and expectations, then you can't get mad when your employees don't meet those standards and expectations because they don't know.
No.
And if you don't know your standards, then why are you getting mad?
Yep.
You're wasting time, you know? So, and it just goes into that. But I'm glad you said something about the Doge cuts in the aspect of, they passed the first one with the NPR, PBS, and something else. I can't remember the third one, but there was a third thing that got cut. All Republicans but one voted for it.
Really?
Yep. Thomas Massey.
Why? Why do you think that is? Do you know?
He says it adds to the debt.
To cut?
Yeah, there's something about there's some preliminary like addition to it or something. I haven't seen exactly why.
But I'd be curious to look into that.
It's weird because I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, it's like we voted for the Doge cuts. America voted for Doge cuts because he ran on Doge and he ran on cutting $2 trillion. So you knew
if it goes against the cuts, though, if it isn't actually being productive.
the cuts that people are fighting about are getting illegals off Medicare. are
okay.
getting stupid money that is being invested in research for like are frogs gay?
What about the
happens in-
BBB?
I'm sorry?
The big beautiful bill. What about that?
Oh, I think that's still in the Senate because there was pushback on it based on the Twitter war between Elon and Trump, because Elon's like, this isn't what we wanted to do.
And he's exactly right.
He is exactly right.
Yeah.
I kind of think that was set up.
I've heard that conspiracy.
Because Elon has apologized and Trump's like, yeah, we're friends and stuff.
I wonder if it was to get some like Democrats on Elon's side, and then when he flipped back over, like, yeah, it's like Elon.
Well, I think it was to get people motivated to release the Epstein files.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
Why? How?
Because why are they not releasing the Epstein files? They're getting blocked. Who's blocking them? That's the question, right? They say, well, Trump's on them. Well, okay, Trump's on them. Let's see it. Is it like?
Do you think they'll ever release them?
Is it the same way as Trump was the Russian dossier where he was getting peed on in a Russian hotel? I mean, if you guys have, and this is the thing that irritates me with like Adam Schiff and all like Elizabeth Warren and stuff, if you have crap on Trump, we know you would have released it, and you wouldn't even waste it until the ink was dry, right? So stop lying to us. We don't care if you don't like Trump. I don't care if you don't like Trump. Do you like America? Are you fighting for us, right? And you shouldn't be voting against America just by out there saying everything that this guy does is bad. When you think about like all the good money that he's bringing in and all the manufacturing that's coming to our country and all this great fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you, last night we were kind of talking a little bit, the Israel tax.
Oh, I was nervous because I just retired. I was like, oh, crap.
You're saved by like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. I'm nervous.
I got a thing for you. Okay. So I was talking to a mutual friend of ours today, and he was saying, we were talking about that, and I was saying something about good thing you're, officially retired for a couple of weeks. And he's like, if they called me back, he's a former vet. And he said, if they call me back, I'd be there in a heartbeat. He's like, that I'd be more comfortable there than I am not. What's your feeling on that?
It's not a war. It's not a war.
Not necessarily that war. I'm not talking about that specific, but just in that environment. Would that be more comfortable for you?
In the environment, yes. Okay. I love it. It's weird and you ask any veteran, they'll tell you.
And that's kind of what he was saying.
When we're there, we hate it. But when we're gone, we're not there, we want to go back.
Okay.
And the reason why is because it's not what we're doing there. It's the brotherhood and the sisterhood of the camaraderie of our buddies. And it goes into the last couple episodes when we talked about like having that circle around you and the friends. I met my best military buddies in Korea, and I still talk to them today. And I haven't seen majority of them. I haven't seen them in 10 years, but I still talk to them. I still treat them like I tell my kids all the time, hey, this is your Uncle Jimmy, Pedro, Marcus, Brandon, Handy, and all that. And everyone's like, but are they? I'm like, yes. Like I would, if those guys were like, hey, we're putting our team together, we're going over to Iraq, Afghanistan, or Iran, or whatever. Do you want to come with? If I'm going with those guys, absolutely. If I had to do a year remote, offshoot, but I knew those guys were there, I'd be there in a heartbeat, because there's something that happens when you're in a deployed location, you're embracing the suck, you're in the middle of the crap, and you're just like, yes, because then when we come back here and we try to reintegrate into normalcy, it doesn't work out the same.
So speaking of military, we got a new sponsor.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So the cool thing about the new sponsor is it's Zero Dark 30 Coffee. It's a local brand for the coffee, in the aspect of it's basically coffee that is built behind a mission of helping first responders and military with PTSD. The founder of Zero Dark 30 Coffee is Jared Webb, and they're local here in the village at Fireside Pine, I think is the location. And the cool thing about it is it's not only delicious in quality, but it's a win-win for, they know where exactly the coffee comes from. So it's not one of those that are outsourcing the coffee to be like, oh, we're going to buy it from a third world country and we don't care about the quality of the life and all that. They do. Right. And the reason why I wanted to promote the Zero Dark 30 Coffee is they are filling your mission with purpose-driven coffee, in the aspect that the whole point of it was that Jared Webb is a disabled veteran and retired law enforcement officer that he understands that the trust that it takes in that community to build the bond, to take care of each other, especially during the PTSD, the depression and the anxiety and the flashbacks. This is what Zero Dark 30 is all built around. It's helping that community, not by giving them money, but giving them the sources and the resources and the tools in order to be successful after any situation that they go through. So what's cool is in 2024 alone, they sent 20 veterans and first responders to life-changing PTSD treatment. And they're already at 9 more for 2025, but every single bag of coffee that you guys buy directly supports the warriors who need it the most. Their tagline says it all: strong coffee, stronger purpose. So whether you're grinding through your goals, like we talked about today, or we talk about through all our episodes, you need that extra push and thrive in your leadership journey. I'm telling you, Zero Dark 30 Coffee is the brand that you need to go to. Dip the Starbucks, the Dutch Bros, and buy local. Zero Dark 30 Coffee. It supports a veteran, and it goes to 100% goes to a good cause.
Man, I'll tell you what too. And I'm not a coffee person, right? I don't drink coffee. I've never have like coffee, but this stuff, I could make an air freshener out of this. Like it smells. What is this? The full battle rattle.
Yeah,
smells
delicious.
It smells so good. My wife, like, she's a big coffee person, so I'm excited for her to brew this so I can smell it.
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing is they have multiple brands, the multiple names, and they're all veteran based. And what's cool is they have grounds. So that's the grounded one. So you just report it into like a coffee pot.
This one's Freedom Crossroads.
Yep. And then they got the beans, the full beans, and then they have K-cups as well.
Give it the beans.
Give
it the beans. So what's really cool is like we're gonna we have our new office, right? Yep. New clinic I'm setting up, and we've talked about having like a little coffee bar or whatever. So I'm assuming we're gonna have some Zero Dark 30 in there, right?
Yes,
so,
constantly.
Yeah. Constantly. So anyone that coming through and they want a cup of coffee,
yep,
it's gonna be some Zero Dark
It'll
30.
Be coffee on us.
Yep,
like
cool.
I'll buy you a cup of coffee.
So speaking of which, we are a week into setting up the new clinic.
Yes.
Or my new clinic, your new office, all that. How are you feeling?
Excited, nervous, but excited because the office space that I'm going into it's perfect for our new podcast setup when we set it up, but it's also going to work as a double to where I can meet my clients there and it'd be comfortable.
I think it's
outside of like a coffee shop.
I'm so excited for how it's going to feel. I've got a lot of ideas and plans for it and everything. It's going to be really cool. Functional space, and I want it to be like I'm building it so people want to be there, right? Like you don't just come and go. Like you can come and hang out. Like I'm gonna have put an arcade machine in there. Like I want a couple couches, whatever. Like people can come and hang out. You can have meetings there. You can have a conversation there. Like you don't have to just come and go. Yeah. Have a kind of that European vibe.
Nice.
Right? Yeah.
No, I like it.
Sit and chill.
And we're also going to be helping local companies like we did today. To get the word out with their exposure and allowing them to, set up their own camera and their own tripod stand and record what they want in a nice, quiet space. You know what I mean? And kind of help really support local businesses because we are both local business owners, and it means more when people talk positive about us, but go the extra mile of leaving Google reviews, leaving LinkedIn recommendations, leaving Facebook feedbacks, or just liking, sharing, or commenting on a post just to drive interest, whether it's this podcast or your buddy's business. It means more than anything if you just take the time to share, like, and comment on something. So, and
I'm really excited too because we have that big space. I'm turning into the functional space. Yeah. One thing I'm doing this last weekend, I finished up a certification course. It was called FRA, which is Functional Range Assessment.
Yeah.
And then coming up here in a couple of weeks, I'm heading up to Montana to do FRC, which is Functional Range Conditioning. So essentially what that is, like I'm going to be able to take clients and people through more of the exercise portion and really kind of hammer down those ailments and get them moving better and feeling better and stuff like that. What I'm really excited about for that functional space is to start hosting small classes there.
Oh, nice.
I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Get, I'm not sure how many we can fit there now, but I'm just assuming somewhere between 6 and 10 people pretty comfortably. Really excited to start doing that.
No, that's cool.
Start hosting some like mobility classes and stuff like that.
And I was looking at the plans that you had for that space, and then I realized that I don't have a excuse anymore. So I got to start working out, which is fine. Equipment's in, which is fantastic. Because I was watching our 4th episode, and I was like, man, Camera does
Suck
add,
it in.
yeah, camera does add about 15, 10 pounds. But what's funny about that is, so I was on a session with one of my clients. She's out of California, and she's an avid listener ever since we released it and stuff.
Oh, cool.
So we appreciate her watching all the time and sharing this stuff. And we were
Give her a shout out. Who is it?
I will. Just give me a second. I got to tell the story. So we were sitting there on the end of the commercial or end of the client session, and we're sitting there talking. And I was like, "Hey, our new episode dropped. Go give it a listen and let me know what you think." She goes, "Is it out on Spotify yet?" And I was like, "No, not yet. It'll be out on Spotify in a couple hours, but it's out on YouTube." And she goes, "Oh, it's YouTube like legit?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've told you that." And she's like, "Oh." So she looked at YouTube and she goes, "Wait a minute. Who's that guy on the couch?" And I was like, "Well, that's Tyler. That's the co-host of the Synergy Code." And she goes, "McKinley, I know you're watching." She goes, "That is not what his voice sounds like." And I was like, "Oh,
what does that mean?
What do you mean?" And
I don't know. Is that a good or bad thing?
This is where I'm going to call her out, right? McKinley, I know you're probably dying laughing right now. So the thing is I was like, "So what did you think he looked like based on his voice?" She goes, "Well, I thought he was taller. And I thought that he didn't have a beard. Like he sounds like he doesn't have a beard, like he has a goatee or handlebar mustache." And I was like, kind of like the guy off of Office Space, the weird neighbor who's like, no, man, that's just, you know what I'm talking about?
No.
That one actor?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I know what you're talking about.
No, man. Shit, no, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
But anyway, so she's like, he doesn't sound like that at all. And I was like, or he doesn't look how he sounds. I'm like, "Oh, what are you talking about, McKinley?" And she goes, "Well, I thought he was taller, and I thought he was going to look like kind of like a soy boy and a vegan and a hippie kind of thing."
Hold on.
I said, okay. So you're talking about he's like a beta? Like you thought he was like a beta looking guy? And she goes, "Yep. Absolutely, because that is exactly how he sounds. But now that I see him, I'm way off." So thank you for the laughter and all that, but you are 100% right. Soy boy over there.
Oh, get out of here. Anything
so thank you
but.
for watching, McKinley.
Turn it off. How could you tell how tall I am anyway?
She said
it's the couch. The couch is soft. Come on, give me a break.
She never seen you. She only heard you.
She can't tell how tall I am. I'm sitting.
She thought, well, you sounded like
I have
you were
long
6'5".
legs, short torso.
She thought you were taller, like 6'5".
I'm 6'4".
Ain't 6'4".
No, I'm not.
I was like, you're probably what, pushing 4'11"?
I used to be 6'1".
Okay, used to be 6'1".
Strongman does that to you.
Yeah, strongman does that to you. Well, it's funny. So thinking about that, like I died laughing, and I was like, I'm going to call you out. And she goes, "No, you won't." And so I had to call her out and say, "That's awesome." And I said, "I'm not going to give him a heads up because I want to see his initial reaction." And I was like, "I'll tell Justin and turn that into a clip so I can specifically send that to you." So get on it, Justin. So anyway, so going forward on this stuff, poker last time. So we had poker on 31st of May. That was the last time we had poker.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a weird night, to be honest with you. I felt like it was off.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because of the heat or what, but it seemed like nobody wanted to really hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was three of us at the end, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Me, you, and Dom, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird night. It was fun, but it was
always fun.
Yeah,
it's always fun. I really want to do it again. I wish we didn't wait so long in between when we did it, but maybe if we could get a good core that can meet maybe once a month.
Well, we can do it at the clinic too.
Maybe. We can do it at clinic.
Yeah.
Especially
when it's hot.
Yep. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And then maybe one of the bets would be you have to like squat or bench or whatever, a certain amount.
You would be the only one that had a problem with that.
I'll just make sure I drink a lot of water.
Yeah, I think you have to realize like most of the people at that table were all strongman athletes.
Yeah, I'm a strong man at like eating great food.
Yeah.
Dino chicken nuggets is what I had for lunch today. It was amazing.
Oh.
Dipped in ranch, doused in ranch.
Imagine that.
But I also drank a lot of water.
How about that? Good for you.
Yeah, I had a lot of coffee. You said that counts. Yum yum juice. Yum.
It counts. It's still hydration. Yeah. It just makes you pee.
It just makes you pee a lot. Yep. So it was funny. It was when we were talking about this episode, we talked about all these things that are going on, right? We talked a little bit. I don't think, did we even really talk about the No Kings protest? But anyway, the No Kings protest this Saturday is supposed to be against Trump as a king, right? And I don't know if you heard, but he was like, I ain't no king. You know the hurdles I got to jump through in order
I
to
saw
get anything
that.
done?
Yeah.
And then what's even funnier on a different side note about going back to the Israel and Iran, somebody on NBC asked Trump, was like, hey, is it true that they took out a lot of the Iranian leadership and stuff? And they said it's some guy's name. And Trump was like, well, I know for sure he didn't die of COVID.
That's good.
I'm like, that is awesome.
That's good.
That is awesome. So with the theme of the comfort zone being either your greatest enemy to your greatest friend type thing, right? Being, what is your definition and what is that threshold of your comfort zone? Now, something that I've kind of thought about that will kind of blow your mind is think about this in this aspect. What used to terrify you yesterday has now become your new normal. Meaning, when you made the decision to go in business with yourself, how'd you feel?
Oh, I was terrified.
Right? Why?
Yeah, terrified. Terrified of the unknown, right? Terrified of the uncertainty.
What was it about the unknown uncertainty that made you a little hesitant?
For me specifically, especially within my industry, and yours, same thing, right? I don't have long-term things, long-term clients, long subscriptions or whatever. People don't buy a product, right? They buy a service. Tomorrow, all those people could fall off the bridge, cancel their service, whatever it is, and that's it.
Absolutely.
There's always that of the unknown. Will you have a work to do tomorrow?
So I was thinking about this that is a good way to say, like, for those that have the month-to-month services or the every quarter month services, what are we doing to retain our clients? What are we doing to retain our customers? But not only retain, but gather and gain more, right? So I fear the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of month-to-month clients, and
you have to as like a service industry.
Yeah, and when that month ends, or what I do is every quarter I send them KPIs, and the KPIs in my industry is very difficult to track because if I send you an assessment about, hey, how do you feel about coaching, and you're just in the worst mood ever, that KPI is going to be horrible, and you're like, this is the worst investment ever. But if you're in a good mood, it's all
subjective.
Yeah, yep. And if you're in a good mood, it's like, woo. Yep. But I had to give you something.
I mean, same with my industry. We have what we call SOAP notes. Okay, SOAP notes are subjective, objective, plan, and assessment. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the subjective is, for me, it's what a client comes in and says they're experiencing, says they have going on. When objective is actually what I actually found. Right.
Yeah.
So our KPIs in my industry is the KPI is, did you achieve something that was pain-free, something that was less discomfortable? Did you achieve a little bit more range of motion? That's the KPI for me.
Yeah. And in the KPI as a key performance indicator, it really holds you accountable, but it holds them accountable as did they do what you advised them to do?
That's where that A part comes into the assessment portion.
Mm-hmm.
And again, back to what I do, if you don't have an assessment portion, right? Someone comes in and they say my shoulder hurts. Okay, cool. You get done. Does your shoulder feel better? I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
However, if I do an assessment previous to when we start, in the pre-interview portion, I can go through an assessment, see like, cool, this is our range of motion in the shoulder. I could either measure it with a goniometer and actually see the degrees, or I can be like, hey, you feel that? You see where that's going, right? You see where that stops? Do some work, get done, reassess it. Now look, how does it feel? It feels the same, but look how much range of motion you just gained, right? Now we've gained 10, 20, 30 degrees of range of motion. Your overhead straighter, your shoulder's doing this better, whatever it is. They're like, oh yeah, that's right. So you always have, I think that's where the assessment portion comes in handy too, is to have those KPIs so your clients or those people can realize the work that's being done and the progress that's being made too.
No, absolutely. And going with the comfort theme of this episode, when you made the decision to go into business with yourself, you had a list of unknowns and a list of fears that a lot of people would be like, that's too much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go back to my comfort zone and I'm going to be like, nope. And then I'm always going to wish I would have, could have, should have. But you took that step, right? And so now, if you look back and say you started another business, those uncomfortabilities or those unknowns, they're not going to be as powerful as the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth time. And that's why serial entrepreneurs are so like, they're ready. They're ready to dive in because they know, okay, the fear is not real. It's real at the moment, but it's not paralyzing.
It's fleeting.
Right? It should not paralyze you. And so it goes into like the first time I ever spoke in front of a crowd, right? outside of the military, the first time I ever spoke in front of a crowd was at the John Maxwell IMC International Maxwell Conference in Orlando. And in there was over 2,000, almost 3,000 folks in that room. And I had the opportunity.
And how many were online? You had a bunch
25 to 2,700 worldwide. And so I got the opportunity to introduce John Maxwell. And I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to make a statement, and I wanted to I didn't want it to falter and be nervous in the whole time, right?
And who's John Maxwell?
So John Maxwell is like I think he's like the godfather of leadership books, right? The godfather of leadership concepts.
So is he like along the lines of like Tony Robbins?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. But he was before Tony Robbins.
Oh,
and
okay.
He's along the lines of like Simon Sinek and Tony Robbins. Who's the other one that Stephen Covey? One of John Maxwell's greatest mentors, he always says at the IMC was John Wooden, the UCLA coach, right? And the one thing that got me on the stage with John to introduce him was that I took a risk to ask a question in front of 500-700 folks 6 months prior and told them my story of me not accepting no's. But it was the not being afraid of my uncomfort zone or the unknown, because I could have got up on that stage and made a fool of myself, and that could have paralyzed me, and I would have been like, nope, I'm not doing this. But instead, I realized that, yeah, I'm sweating bullets, but the audience doesn't know. If I mess up, the audience doesn't know. I put more on what I'm capable and what I offer the audience more than what I should be afraid of. Right. And so I bring up John Maxwell in that experience because what he teaches is the law of the rubber band. The law of the rubber band, the rubber band itself is only useful for what it's stretched out to be utilized. Right. But once it's stretched and once it's utilized, once you remove the objects from the rubber band, what happens to that rubber band? It
loses its elasticity,
but it becomes a little bit bigger and a little bit longer. Yeah. Right. And it never goes back to where it originally was. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it doesn't snap back.
Yeah, that is a good thing. And that's how we as leaders should be, especially when we try to put ourselves out there, right? So the law of the rubber band is great. And in that aspect, it's once you face your mountain of uncertainty, then you realize that once you accomplish that, it's no longer a mountain. You look at it and you're like, oh, that's a stepping stone.
It's a little molehill.
Right?
Yeah.
And and it's funny now that I think about it. When I went home for one of my friends' mom's celebration of life, I took my kids to a neighborhood I grew up on, and there was this hill that scared the crap out of me on my bike. And I was like, this hill used to scare the crap out of me when I was little. And when we drove down it, my kids were like, that was it? I was like, no, it was way bigger. And they're like, did it shrink? I'm like, no, what happened to it? You know? And now it's like,
it's funny how like your perspective changes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And so in that aspect, it's like, I bring that into the whole comfort conversation, right? Comfort is the worst addiction. And there's a reason why we say that. You're okay to be comfortable for a certain amount of time, but once you get complacent and you stop researching, you stop getting better, you stop doing something to advance yourself, then you got to realize, oh, you're way too comfortable at this time.
Yeah, those same, like when I opened my business, when I opened Top Tier and I rented the space that I started in, right? And it was the uncertainty, the unknown, right? Yeah. Like, am I going to have clients when I start there? And when I do, am I going to retain clients? And when I retain clients, do I get new clients? Like, it was all those things. And then after a while, after a week or two, I realized like, oh, okay, like people like what I do, right? I'm good enough to retain these clients. I get a client, I keep them, right? I'm good enough to provide the relief for people. I'm good enough to do the job that I'm telling people I can do. Yep. Right. And then so that fear kind of goes away, right? You get a little bit more comfortable. If I had to, I've always, I talked to my wife about this before. I said, if we absolutely had to move to somewhere else, I'm very confident now that I could recreate this. I could start this all over again. Yeah. And yes, it would be a hassle and it would take some work, but I know I could do it again. Yeah. I know that I could recreate it again, and I'm not afraid to do so.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think the best learning thing that I had was I had a client, it was going really well, and I lost a client. And then I realized that client, when I looked at my books, I lost probably $4,000-$6,000 a month. And I was like, oh God, that hurts. And then I asked him point blank, may I ask why? Right. And I didn't have my assessments yet. And they simply said, what you do is great, but the value is just not there anymore. because you got us to where we need. And now we just need to be able to take the tools that you gave us and go on about ourselves. And I took that as a dock on my capability of being a coach, of being a consultant.
Opposite.
It's the opposite.
It's opposite.
And they simply said, when we're ready, we'll reach out.
You did your job.
Yep. And I know that, and I need to know that these contracts are not they're not lifetime.
Well, that's any service or trade business, right? You're set out to do a job. And if you're good at what you do, you don't have to keep working with those same clients. And some you do.
Yep.
And some want to work with you forever. They like what you do. But some are coming to you for a purpose. Once you fulfill that purpose, they no longer need your services. Yep. And that's going to happen. That's that law of attrition, right? Yep. But it's a reflection in you as a person and as, practitioner of what you do, right? Says you do a good job. And that's where we get into, prices and stuff like that. Like you pay for your expertise. If you are constantly turning over clients because you're too good, right?
Yeah.
You fulfill the promise, you achieve the goal, well then maybe your prices are too low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the struggle that I'm dealing with right now. Well, I think I'm pretty average in the road with how many years I've been in business and the credibility that I bring with me, especially with partnering with Ideal Life. They give me content. They give me a platform to make me stand out, allow me to stand out. And they give me the credibility of being backed by a Forbes bestseller business coaching book, right? By Mark Congdon. And it's amazing when you look at where I was this time last year to where I am now, that it just excites me for tomorrow. And what's funny is talking about this, my last point on this comfort and uncomfort zone is if I told you you were 24 no's away from success, your definition of success, whether it's financial freedom, whether it's celebrity status, whether it's just being comfortable making enough money, what would you do to get your first no?
I'd be going door to door.
What would you do to get your next no?
Same thing.
Even faster, right?
Yep.
So why do we not use that mindset and understand that every no leads to a next opportunity? Yep. Every no leads to a door shuts, a window's opening.
Well, just like Gary Vee was talking about, it's like if you close out of every 1,000 people you talk to, right, or make contact with, or whatever it is, whether you talk to them in person, via social media, you contact them somehow, you make an impression on them. Out of every 1,000, you only have a conversation with 10 of those people. Out of 10 of those people, you only close one person. Why are you not talking to 1,000 people a day?
Yeah.
Why are you not trying to make contact with 1,000 people a day, a week, whatever it is? You need to be contacting that 1,000 people to get that one client.
Play the numbers game.
Play the numbers game.
In a not a arrogant way, right? Of like,
what do you mean not in an arrogant way? What does that mean?
Like to me, an arrogant way of playing the numbers game is like, I'm talking to you, but I'm not listening to you.
Oh,
and
yes.
I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. I'm handing you my business cards. And that's all I want is business cards. I want to buy 1,000 business cards. And if I don't have 1,000 business cards left, I'm like, boom, I'm successful. No, you're not. Because where's your follow through? Where's your accountability? Where's your ability to connect and actually listen to the pain point? Because not everyone you talk to is going to need you.
Right.
But if you listen right, you might be able to connect them to somebody that will help them. And that in itself will in turn,
it'll make an impact
and give you a possible referral.
Yes. And you have to treat every interaction, every contact as if it is that one person.
Yep.
Because you don't know, if you talk to 1,000 people, it might be person 999 or it could be person 1.
Yep.
Right? And you have to treat every person as if that's the person that's going to buy your services or use you for what they need to use you for.
The way that I've been looking at clients, even though the leads, at least when they're like, I'm not sure if I can afford you, but I love what you do, but I don't know if I can afford you. I still treat them like an executive, even if they're not. And I treat them with the potential that they can make money, that they can make their success a reality. An alignment of their goals, of their future, of what they defined it as, right? And when we talk about the alignment of their goals in the future, it all goes into pushing us and challenging us, right? And so to end this podcast...
Hold on, before we do, I want to ask you another question.
Sweet baby Jesus.
Yeah. I want to ask you, what are you uncomfortable with right now? We went over what I'm uncomfortable with. What are you uncomfortable with?
I'm uncomfortable with, I don't know.
And you can't use the new spaces. I already used that.
No. I'm uncomfortable with is I don't know where this podcast is going to take us. And I don't know if and when we will be ready if it takes off. Meaning if we get people following us, subscribing, liking, commenting, watching, saying their feedback, are we going to be okay with critical feedback? Are we going to be
at what point do you get comfortable with that?
I think that will be once I get a couple of the negative feedbacks, once I get a couple of the positive feedbacks, once I get me and you on a cadence going on this, and people like are recognizing us and being like, hey, the synergy code changed my life. Not changed my life, but changed my mindset or gave me that extra motivation. Or,
hey, I had someone we both know told us yesterday or today that they're getting their steps in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I'm cautiously on some of the people that we pushed to this episode or to this channel and this podcast. I'm cautious if they are just being nice.
Sure.
Right. So I want to challenge them that we're adults. So be mean. If you don't like our show and our episodes, tell us, because we truly want to get better for you guys, but also for ourselves, because we are taking the risk of putting ourselves out on the interwebs.
Make Brandon more comfortable and give us feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. Make me more comfortable. But then outside of this episode, the one thing that I'm uncomfortable with, I guess you can say, is when it comes to how I'm going forward in the reintegration into the civilian world is still kind of scary for me, to be 100% honest, because I don't know how I'm going to be received. I don't know if mentally I'm going to be able to realign with what I need to realign with. So society will be ready for me as a full-fledged civilian again. You know what I mean? Because I spent 20 years getting told what to do, where to go, what to wear,
how
to
to
act.
get your own insurance and stuff.
I had to do an adult thing. I'm not complaining about the price. Price is great, but I didn't know. I thought we had a 60-day buffer, and they were like, nope, 1 June, you're off. You and your family are off. I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, you have no insurance. I'm like, so what does that mean? You got to buy insurance, like legit insurance, like actually pay for it now. And I'm freaking out over the copays. I have to pay copays.
Yeah,
I'm like, copays are stupid.
Insurance sucks.
Insurance does suck. But thank you for asking me that question.
Yeah.
So now what the part I was getting at is I wanted to challenge you guys with the thing called the 1% challenge of your comfort zone versus your uncomfortability, right? And the whole point of this challenge, this episode, is I want to push you for the next 7 days to do something that's out of your comfort zone, at least a 1%, a one step or a toe out of your comfort zone, just to kind of get a feel of it. But I don't want you to just to do it and say, ooh, I did it. Kind of like those people, I'll be guilty, goes to the gym, looks around and be like, boom, I was at the gym. No, we want you to be intentional and we want you to be consistent, because we truly want you guys to be better tomorrow than you were today. So this 1% challenge is all based on pushing yourself out of your comfort zone by 1% effort, 1% intentional, 1% consistency, and kind of jot it down. How'd you feel? What'd you think? What did you do that caused you to take that step into the uncomfort zone for you to be not comfortable anymore in order for you to grow?
And with that, please like, share, comment, share it with your friends. The more we can get this out to more people, the more people we can touch and help in a good way, hopefully. And this is a Synergy Code Podcast.
Synergy Code Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Synergy Code Podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe and follow us on all platforms. To stay up to date with all things Synergy Code, follow us at the Synergy Code Pod on social media. Also, thanks to our main sponsors, Top Tier Massage Therapy and Performance Recovery, MEI Coaching, ProX Productions, and the Digital Unicorn.